Okay, good morning my time, good afternoon your time. So today I'm gonna discuss a strategy that we implemented last fall because of the COVID-19 issues that started last spring, and we called it the ASU Sync. So that's the title that you have there. To sync or not to sync, that is what we are looking for. We want to see how to help the students achieve their learning goals during this pandemic. So I'm looking at the student perceptions of their learning during this pandemic in the fall 2020. And I'm gonna introduce what a sync classroom means and what's the student perceptions. And this study investigated student perceptions of their learning in the sync classroom during the COVID-19 at Arizona State University in fall 2020, and also student perceptions of their learning and engagement in the sync classroom in comparison to traditional face-to-face classroom. The goal was to answer the following 5 questions. What are students' attitudes toward the use of toward the sync classroom? What are students' perceptions of the impact of the sync classroom on their learning? What are students' perceptions of the effect of the sync classroom on their interaction with their professors and classmates? How do students compare between their learning in the sync classroom versus the face-to-face traditional classroom? What are the advantages and the challenges of the sync classroom? The participants of this study were 34 students who attended the sync classes at ASU during fall 2020. All the participants, they filled a 5-point Likert-type 20-item survey and 2 open-ended questions. The scale of the survey, of course, ranged from strongly I disagree 1 to strongly agree 5, with 2 open-ended questions. What are the advantages of the sync classroom? And what are the challenges that you face that asking the student in the sync classroom? See that all of this started in spring 2020. In spring 2020, when the pandemic hit and the universities stopped teaching face-to-face classes, of course, for me, it was not really that hard because I was already teaching online classes. Most of my classes were online. Some of them were face-to-face. It was really hard on the students themselves, especially the ones who are attending the traditional classroom. The move was not easy for them. And because of the lockdown, everybody is at home using Zoom or working on a blackboard or Canvas, and you are watching these. Some professors, they put these long lectures, 1 hour, 2 hours lectures, for example, and it was not easy adaptations for a student to get used to this a new thing. So within the summer, ASU start to say, okay, we want to plan to bring the students to classroom in the face-to-face in the 4th semester. So how can we do that? And that's really the idea of the ASU Sync. We try to bring the students to attend face-to-face classes, while of course accommodating every student's in the individual circumstances, enabling social distancing in the classroom, or also if students cannot really attend the classroom face-to-face, they cannot attend also via Zoom at the same time, they can do it completely online. So if you can see that the work switched from the student to the faculty member. Now more burden is putting on the faculty member because you have to accommodate 3 modalities of teaching at the same time. The ones who are in the classroom directly, the one who are attending remotely via Zoom, and the one who are completely online. So that's kind of a struggle or a challenge for all faculty members and so on. So the students were allowed in the sync classes are able to use the Zoom to learn in real time alongside with other students who are participating in the face-to-face classroom instruction. And the students in the classes that met twice a week were divided into 2 groups. Each group attended 1 day in a week in person and 1 day via Zoom. In addition to accommodate the students' needs, of course, students had the option of attending the class completely online. So for example, on a Tuesday, Thursday, classes were designed as follows. And on Tuesdays, half of the class meets in person, while the other half of the class participates in live Zoom classes. For the students who are in the class, they have to wear masks. They have to be 6 feet apart in the classroom, and so on. On Thursday, the switch happened. The other group will attend face-to-face classes, while the first group who attended face-to-face will attend via Zoom. And in between, there are some students who did not attend neither face-to-face or via Zoom. They are doing all the work online. So the responses of the survey that we're going to look at were categorized into 5 categories, 4 categories plus the open-ending questions. The student attitudes toward the Sync classroom, the students' perceptions of the impact of the Sync classroom and their learning, the student perceptions of their classroom interaction in the Sync classroom, and the students' comparison between face-to-face classes and the Sync classes. And each category consisted of 5 to 6 questions. I will not show you all of this, of course. You can read that in the paper. But this is how the analysis went: finding the mean, standard deviation, agree, disagree percentages, the neutral ones who are the middle, and the ones who disagree. So that's really what I'm gonna share with you, some of these percentages, so we can come up to a conclusion toward the end. The student attitudes for the first category, students' attitudes toward the Sync classroom, 68.5% of the participants agreed that they enjoyed this kind of a classroom, the structure. You see, in the spring semester, it was very hard for them to use the Zoom. It was something new, a new technology, and people, they don't really, sometimes they are hesitant to use this new technology. On top of that, you are sitting home during the lockdown with other family members. There's 4, 5, 6, it depends on the family size, and all of them may be using some kind of technology, and sometimes it's very hard to find the room space for each one of those students. 65.7% of them indicated that they overall enjoyed the remote learning. When we look at the means of all of these 6 survey items, it ranged between 3.77 to 4.3 out of 5, which kind of an indicator they had a positive attitude toward the Sync classroom in general. The second category, students' perceptions of the impact of the Sync classroom on their learning. 28.5% agreed that the Sync classroom structure improved their learning, while 22.85% disagreed. It's like, you can see, like a little bit of agreement, but not that much. Most of them, they had a neutral view of the impact of the Sync classroom on their learning. The majority of them, 62.86%, agreed that attending in a class virtually via Zoom made it easier for them to understand the class concepts. And the means of students' responses for this category range between 3.17 to 4.37. Again, we are hinting toward the positive view of the Sync classroom and its impact on the learning of the students. The third category was students' perceptions of the effect of the Sync classroom on their interaction. 45.71% agreed that the Sync classroom structure increased their interaction with the professor, because now they can ask questions via Zoom. They can put the questions in the chat room. There are the breakout rooms where the instructor sometimes intervenes and goes from one breakout room to another to see the students and their participation. And 22.86% of them disagreed. On the other end, with the students' interaction with their classmates, 48.57% disagreed. So like, it's kind of opposite direction here. Usually with the face-to-face classes, if you are doing a group work inside the classroom, you're gonna see more interaction within the group. But within the breakout rooms, I think because everybody's on a screen, some of the students are hesitant maybe to turn the camera on, like me, for example, now. My camera is not working. Or they don't want to unmute themselves and so on. So you have so many technical issues that happen. There's some kind of hesitancy with interaction with other classmates and so on. The range for this, look at this one, is dropped a little bit. It's not, the other ones were like a 3 point something up to 4 point something. But this one is kind of a little bit to the negative side, 2.77 to 3.83. The 2.77 comes from the interactivity with the classmates. The fourth category was students' perceptions of remote versus face-to-face learning. Comparison, like their own experiences now within this sync class model and what they used to do before, face-to-face classes always. The majority of the students, 57.14, indicated that they prefer to enroll in future classes using the sync classroom compared to the face-to-face classroom. This was, by the way, in the fourth semester. I'll give you more information. Now, in this spring semester, we are doing the same thing. There are less students now attending face-to-face classes, by the way. The majority of them says, no, since I can do this via Zoom, why should I come to the classroom anymore? They were hesitant in the spring last year, 2020, because it was new. But now, after 1 year, some of them, they love it. And they say, okay, I can save money. I'm staying at home. I don't need to drive. I don't need to put myself at risk where there are more students maybe around you and to get the virus, for example, and so on. So now this semester, that's like I'm trying to compare between what happened in the fall. I used to have more students who coming face to face in comparison to now, was actually most of them attending via Zoom. So 45.71% of the students indicated that they felt more motivated to study in the sync classroom in comparison to the face-to-face one. And the means again, 3.2 to 3.54 out of the 5, which kind of a neutral, a little bit of, again, I will not say positive because it's very close to the neutral view of the sync classroom. Their perception of the advantages, the two major advantages that students mentioned were flexibility and accessibility. They can access it anytime because these lectures mostly are recorded and they are posted for the students online, or the instructors, they provide additional video resources for them so they can watch it online too. So if they miss a class, they cannot show up for the Zoom meeting or to the face-to-face meeting, they can really watch these lectures later on. Sample of the comments, if we just reading some of this, like for some advantages, I'm gonna look at the last one. Some advantages of the classroom is the flexibility. With COVID-19 going on, there have been a lot of changes in our daily lives. Having sync allows us students to be able to do this in the comfort of our home, which is kind of the major point that students mentioned. The other one was the challenges, and I looked at that in 4 different categories: technical issues, interaction and social issues, attention, and general issues. Technical issues, usually the technology in general not reliable. For example, you lose the internet, the focus of the camera in the classroom, sometimes it's not great because in the university we had 3 type of classrooms: type A, type B, type C. If I teach or anybody teaches in type A room, that is the most prestigious room, for example, it has multiple cameras, multiple screens, so you can create more interactivity with the students who are in the classroom and with the students who are already on Zoom at the same time. Interaction issues, special social issues, of course. Students are much less likely to interact and participate with others in group activities. Difficult to get everyone participating, and that's within the students. When you put them in breakout rooms, depending on the class and the professor structure, of course, it changes from one class to another class. Some instructors are very strict. They're like, okay, you must be in this breakout rooms, and this is the role that you have to play in each classroom and so on. Some of them are very flexible. You join the classroom, do whatever you can do, share your ideas with your classmates and on, and without any accountability and anything else. Harder to communicate with the students. Students can sometimes feel isolated. Paying attention, especially if you are giving long lectures, like an hour, 75 minutes videos. This is kind of a film, a video. Somebody mentioned, like, I'm going to a movie theater, I'm watching a movie, and then it's like it goes out. You cannot keep watching because it's not easy. Keep watching like an hour, 15 minutes. And that's why attending the classroom via Zoom directly or interacting with the students in the classroom is way better than just putting that long lecture online for students to watch. And again, you have the struggle with time management. General issue that this is what students said in their comments. Sync classroom posed some challenges as it sometimes felt like I was watching a very long video and I dozed off quite a bit. I did my best not to fall into that, but it does get a tad bit challenging at times. It is different for each professor. Some professors who are teaching at their own house have a clear voice because they don't wear masks. But some professors wearing masks at school and teaching have a clear voice. So it is really difficult to understand what they are talking about. I feel that as a student, I'm not grasping the important information as I would be in a traditional face-to-face classroom. I also feel that with some teachers, I do not have a good teacher and student relationship. It's just like opinions of the students of their own experiences with the different class rooms that they attended. Conclusion, the findings of the study indicated that the student had a positive in general attitude toward the sync classroom, and they believe that the sync classroom structure had a positive impact on their learning. I can attest to this one, as I mentioned earlier, that I see less students in the face-to-face classroom. I see most of them actually attending via Zoom. Students believe that the sync classroom structure had a mostly positive impact on their classroom engagement with the instructor, but not with their classmates. Students found the sync classroom to be flexible and accessible. Students faced some challenges in the sync classroom, including technical and social challenges, as I mentioned. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the presentations.